It's an astonishing fact, but deafness is now the third most common form of disability in the world. This may serve to explain why there is greater need for deaf awareness among today's society. Communication is vital to any human existence. In order to respond to this need effectively and to make the communication process more pleasant, there is need for more deaf awareness among today's society. As we observe Deaf Awareness Week 2016 under the theme, Mastering the Dream, we are privileged to have with us today Tracy Chumley. Tracy has a bachelor's degree in art and a master's in deaf education. She's also the founder of a volunteer-run organization, Seeing Eyes, Signing Hands. Tracy, we are delighted to have you. Please tell us more about the work you do.
Our organization, SESH, really started in America about 8 years ago, relating to helping here in Guyana. The deaf community from America, also from Guyana, we work together how to improve Guyana deaf, the Guyana deaf community in terms of employment, education generally. The organization was set up because people here in Guyana needed our help how to improve their lives. So our work is focused on three things. First, employment, jobs, and life skills. We work by fundraising. We collect money to pay for airline flights and volunteer like food, and also to send out letters to supporters, so they might help us with some funds as well to fund here in Guyana, different meetings and other things. That's our job with SESH.
Tell us a little bit more about International Deaf Awareness Week.
Deaf Awareness Week really starts September at the end, only in Guyana, but also, it's not only in Guyana, it's also all over the world. Deaf Awareness Week started many years ago. It started in America under World Deaf Federation. So Deaf Awareness Week happens every year. Throughout the world. They share information with hearing persons, schools, generally with the hearing community. Sharing information about what is deaf life, what is deaf culture, what is the deaf sign language, everything related to deafness. I think it's really important, Deaf Awareness Week, because the public needs to be aware of the Deaf Awareness Week.
Why is it important for us to promote Deaf Awareness Week?
Why it's important to promote Deaf Awareness Week is because we have many issues. For example, deaf children are hidden in the home. They're not encouraged to go out, go to school, because the parents are either afraid or embarrassed. They don't know what to do with their deaf child. So we want to encourage parents to understand about the deaf. Other things like encouraging hearing to understand that the deaf person has to be equal, just like a hearing person. For example, the deaf can work just the same as a hearing person. Do you want to add anything, James? I think the parents of deaf children that don't send them to school, I think maybe the parents send them, maybe a transportation problem of getting the child to school. How can they get there? Maybe they don't have the money. So it's so much trouble, they just stay home. So what can we do? We need to plan to go some volunteers to go to the house and explain how important it is for them to send their child to school.
There's an interesting quote on a Deaf Awareness website which states that being deaf is about experiencing the world visually. Tell us how you feel about that.
Deaf people have a visual experience. For example, the deaf people try to involve in the hearing world, for example. The deaf try to communicate with hearing people visually. Everything is by their eyes, visual. Their hearing becomes their eyes, for example. You go out to the movie, the deaf people, I have to use my eyes to watch the movie. I'm not lip reading very much, it's too much, but I look at the action to see what's happening. Other ways of communicating with hearing person, they can write back and forth on paper. Anyway, they try to get involved with hearing people, what hearing people do. That's what being deaf is about. It's, yeah, that quote. Yeah. There's another famous quote from Gallaudet's president 20 years ago. He said, "Deaf can do anything except hear." And that pretty much makes sense. Communication, everything depends on our eyes. We try to, that's how we view the world, not by our ears. Yeah.
Tell us about some of the challenges that deaf people face every day, especially the children.
Some of the challenges are, for example, it's not easy for the parents to teach their deaf child. They have to teach them, it's a little different than a hearing child. For example, education of the deaf, they need more time, requires more patience. Not a little, but it's a lot of work. There's an increase of money. For example, they go to therapy, speech therapy. They have learned how to use a hearing aid when they go to school. Would you like to add? When I went to school, the students, it was a bit of a challenge. They didn't know how to communicate, and I didn't either. They had some, we had some general Guyanese signs that we used, and then our communication got better. Parents really need to help from other teachers, from the special needs school or a deaf school. The teachers need to get involved with the teaching. I feel like most parents of the deaf really are behind. They feel like left out. So we want to encourage them, the parents, to come come out of hiding place and will be happy to share information with them to improve deaf education, how to improve deaf children's lives in general.
Can you share with us some information or tips on how to communicate with a deaf person?
It's also, that's a very important question also. Communication tips, I use them every day, everywhere. For example, hearing person, I'm deaf. How do we communicate? I lip read. I watch their lip read. If I don't understand, then we write back and forth. And James, when I meet a hearing person, how do we communicate? Because I don't understand. I don't lip read very well. They write to me. If I'm out on the road, or if they try to get my attention, but I can't hear them, they have to come up to me actually and touch me on the shoulder to get my. If it's hard, I go, hey, oh, what happened? It's like a surprise because I didn't see, and then they say, what's up? Yeah. Another communication tip is when you're walking to a deaf person, when you come up to a deaf person, just come around into their peripheral vision, because their peripheral vision is very acute, and so if you just come around the side of them, they will notice that you're there. Many deaf people don't know how to write. Maybe the hearing person could draw a picture, a simple. You don't have to be an artist, just a simple picture, something basic. What else? Oh, in terms of an interpreter, the interpreter acts like the voice for the hearing person. For example, we go to, say, a court, go to the court, or police, or the hospital. They need to use an interpreter to make it more clear, the communication, make it more clear. It's very important. Many try to go to the hospital and the police without an interpreter, and it makes a lot of confusion. If they get wrong information. If deaf people go out in the public, the deaf creates a big problem. Like what, for example? Like, I'm a deaf person. I just go out. I'm on the bus or a taxi. I need to go somewhere, but I don't know exactly where I'm going. It creates a lot of problems. Some of the deaf tell me that they sort of take advantage of a deaf person. They just drop them off anywhere. So they need to have either a piece of paper to write the destination on, or use their favorite taxi service to go to various places like a hotel or schools or the doctor. And then they need to make sure of the fare as well, because the taxi may charge them, say, $1,000, and the deaf person doesn't actually know what the fare should be, and so they sometimes get taken advantage of. So when I contact a taxi, I have a hearing person call, and when they drop us off, they try to charge us more. Let me add also, right now for many years it's been going on that, they use the term deaf and dumb. This has to stop. Because the deaf use sign language, means that they still talk but not use their voice. They just use their hands to talk. It's the same way hearing people talk. Parents also need to be encouraged to go to the bank to open an account, but it doesn't always happen. They try to do it for the deaf person, but it's important that the deaf person knows how to do it themselves and learns, so they can get their own TIN number and everything else and apply, so it gives them practice in reading and writing. We encourage employers sometimes they're afraid to hire a deaf person. They wonder what they're going to do. They think the deaf can't work. That's the reason why the Deaf Awareness Week, we have a lot of meetings are set up that will include communication tips. Also, communication tips, when communicating with a deaf person, don't try to have a light behind you or in the face of a deaf person. It would be hard for that deaf person to see. The light has to be behind the deaf person so that I can see their face. It'll make it easier. No, I don't have anything to. Okay.
Tell us a bit more about some of the things that we cannot say or do that might be offensive to a deaf person.
Two things. Thanks for the question. Two things. Deaf don't like people who say deaf and dumb. Yeah, it's really an offense to the deaf person. Second thing, to make fun of the deaf person, yeah. The words hearing impaired, it's not the same as deaf. Hearing impaired really is an old word. Long ago we used to, around the 1960s, we threw that out a long time ago. We prefer the word to say just deaf. Full stop. I am deaf. That's it. Are you hard of hearing? Are you hearing impaired? It's too long, too exaggerated. So deaf, it's simple. Be happy. Deaf are happy, very happy people. They're not sorry that they can't hear. No, they're happy.
Based on your own experience, what are some words of experience for a young boy or girl out there who is deaf and maybe is ashamed of it, and just to encourage them that they're normal, they can reach their full potential, and they can live a normal life? What words of encouragement do you have for them?
When I'm with young children, I always tell them they can do anything. Same as the hearing child. I show them books. I draw for them. They need to learn from the deaf adults. And deaf children need a good role model. Here, they don't have very much. They don't have enough role models because there's too many hearing teachers. We need to sort of balance that with hearing teachers and parents or whatever. The children need deaf role models to help them learn fast. Yeah. They can do anything. Why? Because they use sign to communicate. It's the fastest way, and rather than by lip reading or When you learn sign language, children learn really fast, one day. Maybe 20 words in one day, and then they compare, and then they practice, or compared to lip reading practice, it might take them 2 years to learn the same words, right? And he goes, yes. So it's better to teach them sign first and speech therapy or lip reading later. We want to improve the hearing and speech therapy. We don't have much here yet, but it's not, the parents don't even know about it. They don't know where to go to get these therapies. Most parents don't have enough information about what to do with their deaf child. Yeah. The best place, home and school, to raise the deaf child. Yeah. Also understand that 90% of hearing parents have deaf children. Most of the hearing parents, only 10% of the deaf have hearing children in the world. Yeah. Not only here in Guyana.
So what tips do you have for the parents of a deaf child to ensure that that child have that support?
Tips for parents: try to be patient. Patience. It requires a lot of patience, a lot of love. Those two things are really important. Plus, parents should have other support groups. Sometimes the parents feel like they're alone by themselves and they can't do it. Maybe a brother or a sister will help, or Ministry of Education has some advice. Patience and love are the really two important things. Yeah.
Is there any organization or so on that we can go and maybe, or a mother can go and maybe get some assistance in terms of how to deal with a child that is deaf?
There's a few here. There's a few organizations here, yeah. Like NSERD, Lawrence's organization, Change Life Deaf Church. Any more? Oh, and DAG, D-A-G, Deaf Association of Guyana, right? And then, yeah.
Okay, as we wrap up, you have any other thing to share with us, our viewers?
Deaf Awareness Week, we really want to encourage churches to get involved, and also church try to have a sign language in the church. It's very important to have a church, to have interpreters there in the church, because the deaf, they want to go to church, but they don't know how the church doesn't know signs, so it's important for the church to learn, sign language, to have a sign language class. Also, we offer sign language classes, so. Yeah, well, Guyana Deaf Mission also offers sign language class as well. So, yeah, I would encourage everyone to learn some signs. It's actually a fun language to learn. It's just like people learn Spanish or French or Indian, Chinese. It's the same thing. Sign language is not really hard to learn. For example, thank you. There's thank you. Thank you. And hi. and welcome and bye-bye. So it's really simple. Basic signs are very simple and we can learn it. Yeah.
Okay, but if someone wants to learn a sign language, where can we go to learn it?
Three things, three places. Change Life Deaf Church, our organization, SESH, we have sign language classes, and DAG, Deaf Association, also has sign classes. Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Williams, do you have anything to say as we close?
In my family, there are 5 deaf in my family. I have 5 brothers and 3 sisters, but there are 6 brothers, and 5 of them are deaf. The parents are hearing. But why are there 5 deaf in my family? I don't know. I'm not sure. But my grandmother told me a story a long time ago that my grandfather was born deaf and passed it on to us. I'm from Bardica, by the way. Yeah. I moved here to work here in Georgetown. I work in Nigel's supermarket. Yeah, right now. Yeah. A long time I worked as a teacher. A while ago, I worked as a teacher in a school, yeah, a deaf school. I would also like to invite his mother. She has 5 deaf sons. Very important for her to share information with the hearing parents. How did you succeed? How did you cope with 5 deaf sons? It'll happen next week on Friday. The theme is education with the family, I think. And parents get involved. That's next week on Friday. Very important to encourage the parents to come, yeah, for Deaf Awareness Week.
We've come to the end of our program. Today we had with us Tracy Chumley and also James Williams, who shared with us some very important information and tips on how to communicate with a deaf person. Remember, Deaf Awareness Week is being celebrated in Guyana from September 25th to October 1st. Thank you for staying with us.